Forget sleeping bags. The World War II cold survival trick modern preppers ignore. Cold doesn't just make you uncomfortable. It slows your brain, weakens your hands, steals calories, and, quietly kills morale before it ever kills the body. During World War II, soldiers learned this the hard way, often faster than they learned how to fire their weapons. And here's the twist most people miss. The real cold weather breakthrough wasn't a high-tech sleeping bag. It was a brutally simple system that turned the human body itself into the heater. A system so effective that modern survivalists still underestimate it today. Before we dive in, if you enjoy uncovering the survival logic hidden inside history's hardest moments, go ahead and subscribe now so you don't miss the next code humanity cracked under pressure. This isn't nostalgia, this is cold math, and it starts with why sleeping bags weren't the hero we think they were. Sleeping bags failed more often than you'd expect. Early wartime bags absorbed moisture fast, sweat during movement, condensation at night, snow melting through canvas shelters. Once insulation got wet, warmth vanished. Soldiers froze inside gear that looked perfect on paper. World War II armies learned quickly that insulation alone doesn't win against cold. Heat management does. The real trick was layering in a way that trapped air-controlled moisture and let the body regulate itself without overheating. Soldiers didn't rely on one big warm item. They relied on systems. Wool undershirts next to the skin because wool stays warm when wet. Mid-layers that could be adjusted instantly. Outer shells designed to block wind, not trap sweat. Every piece had a role. Nothing was decorative. But the genius move came at night. Instead of crawling into a single insulated sack, soldiers built warmth from the ground up. Literally. Cold ground steals heat faster than cold air. So they insulated the earth first using pine boughs, straw, grass, even spare clothing laid thick beneath them. Some units stacked insulation until they were nearly off the ground. This wasn't comfort. This was survival physics. Then came the blanket system. Multiple wool blankets wrapped around the body in layers, not folded flat. Wrapped loosely enough to trap air, but tight enough to block drafts. Soldiers often slept fully clothed, not because they didn't have pajamas, but because body heat worked better when distributed across layers already warmed by movement during the day. Wet clothing was changed immediately. Dampness was the real enemy. One overlooked detail actually made a massive difference out there: ventilation. Soldiers learned to let heat escape before sweat could really build up. Overheating during the day was corrected early, even if it felt kind of counterintuitive. Open the jacket, loosen the collar. Sweat now meant freezing later on. Discipline around temperature control, it honestly saved lives. In extreme cold, soldiers shared heat. Buddy sleeping wasn't about romance, not at all. It was strategy. Two bodies under layered blankets doubled heat output, while reducing the surface area exposed to cold. This technique goes back centuries, but World War II made it doctrine in some units. Funny thing is, modern solo survival thinking often ignores this entirely. Food played its part too. High-fat, high-calorie rations before sleep fueled internal heat production. Soldiers understood that the furnace needed fuel. Empty stomachs meant colder nights, plain and simple. Even a small ration before rest could mean the difference between shivering and sleeping. Another secret weapon was timing. Soldiers avoided sleeping immediately after stopping intense activity. They cooled down deliberately, let the sweat evaporate. Dry layers replaced damp ones. Only then did they settle in. Rushing into rest while soaked guaranteed misery hours later. Shelter construction mattered, but not in the way movies show. Trenches, foxholes, and snow shelters were small on purpose. Less air to heat. Wind blocked on multiple sides. Reflective heat bounced back toward the body. Even crude shelters could outperform expensive gear when built correctly. What makes this system powerful is that it scales. It works in forests, plains, snowfields, and ruins. It doesn't depend on specialized equipment. It depends on understanding heat, moisture, and airflow. That's why modern preppers often fail. They buy gear instead of learning systems. Today, people chase the newest sleeping bag ratings. -20, -40. But ratings don't save you if you sweat, compress insulation, or lose ground heat. World War II soldiers didn't have marketing departments. They had feedback loops measured in frostbite. This is why their methods still matter. They learned through failure, refined through necessity, and standardized through survival. The cold didn't care about ideology, rank, or bravery, only preparation. And here's the real lesson for history's survival code. The strongest survival tools are often invisible. Knowledge, timing, discipline, systems that adapt instead of gadgets that promise. If you're ever caught in the cold with limited gear, forget chasing comfort. Chase control. Control moisture, control airflow, control ground contact, control calories. That's the code they cracked under fire. History doesn't whisper these lessons. It screams them. You just have to listen. If this episode gave you a new way to think about survival, hit subscribe, share this with someone who still trusts gear more than knowledge, and join us as we keep decoding the past to survive the future.